right, so I'm piggybacking off of what Verna did last week when it came to communities and she did the new homes, and I wanted to take a piece out of KW Wealth. When they announced KW Wealth, I got pretty excited, and I wanted to be a part of that as soon as it launched, and that's what I did. And the big thing about it is that it's a totally different style of conversation, right? Some of the highlights that this community talks about are like entity structures and asset protection, cash flow, wealth planning. And the big thing about this is it's not necessarily meant for anybody that's already there, right? It's also for people that are on the pathway of getting there, have the ambition of being there, okay? And another high-level conversation that takes place is around tax tips and tax implications and tax mitigation. And I know this is a conversation that Chad has brought up for a few weeks now. And considering the time of the year, I thought, all right, let's have a conversation regarding how to protect your money, right? And so that was a big thing. So not that I'm an expert in the field or anything, so I thought I would call a professional to do that. And the best thing I could do was just, if you want to save money, just have like a brown man come up here and talk about it. So that's what I decided to do. I'm just kidding. My guest, come on up, Umang. My guest today is actually an investment advisor. He happens to be one of my absolute best friends. And so I had him come up here and just to give you an idea of some of the ways you should be thinking about and strategizing, when it comes to your money. Okay. And then this is just going to be kind of he's going to give you a little synopsis and then I'm going to invite him to come back so we can do a much bigger thing for you guys. Okay. But I'm going to let him take it away. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Don't you dare say anything about me while you're up here.
My nickname is Brown Man. So glad that worked out. That worked out. I don't know how you guys deal with this guy. But no, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come. Thank you for letting me come and speak. Hopefully this information is relevant, especially for those of you guys who raise your hands with all the great news that you guys were making all this money and had all these closings in the pipeline. This information is going to be extremely relevant to you as well. So I'm really excited to share this information. I know it's not the most exciting. Now, I'm not a tax expert. I'm an investment advisor. But what we're here to do is talk about how you can structure yourself as an independent contractor to take advantage of certain tax benefits and things like that with your business, specifically regarding investment accounts, right? Because how many guys got into this game to just constantly keep selling homes for the rest of your life? Good. Hopefully you got into this game to eventually build wealth. Right? And wealth comes in many forms, many different shapes, and many different sizes, right? And so that's what we're here to talk about is another avenue of building wealth, okay? And protecting it as well. And so, look, like Dinesh talked about, we've been discussing this for quite some time about, I love talking to people. I love talking to organizations. I love talking to business owners. And that's essentially what you guys are, right? You guys are in business for yourself, right? And I love that because I know how hard it is. I did that back in 2003. I know how scary it is. How many of you guys are full-time? That's quite a few of you, right? So leaving a steady paycheck, thinking your family thinks you're crazy, your friends think you're crazy, it's a lot of stuff that you deal with, right? And the reason why you go through all that stuff is with the hopes that not only do you create a lot of wealth, but to me, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that wealth creates something called freedom. Does anybody know the word freedom? How many of you guys want to be completely financially free one day, right? So to me, freedom is the ultimate goal. But with that freedom comes a lot of responsibility. And you guys are in a very unique situation where you are free, you are independent contractors, you are your own boss, but you also don't get the benefits that a lot of other people do, that maybe your spouse does, or maybe that your friends and family members do, right? A lot of times people don't have to think about their financial situation because their employer already set stuff up. And even when you ask them about it, they still don't know what's going on with their stuff, right? So they're in that position where they have somebody to kind of create those benefits for them. They don't have to think about those things. As an independent contractor, and if you have any ambition of becoming a full-time real estate, you're gonna have to do all that stuff on your own, right? You're gonna have to think about how to create your own benefits and your own financial game plan and things like that, right? So one of the first things, and these are just some really quick snippets before we get into the meat of the conversation, and my goal is, if you guys like the content, if you guys like me, then hopefully we get an opportunity to come back and do a more comprehensive discussion about all different aspects of your financial life. But the biggest thing is that you are in control. And so when it comes to your finances, you've got to be able to take control as well, right? Don't feel like, hey, just because I don't work for a major corporation, they don't provide these benefits, I can't be on that same path that a lot of other people are. Yes, it's going to take a little bit more work, a little bit more effort, but you have the ability to take control. You also have to learn how to pay off debt. Because would you guys agree? I'm sure you guys deal with clients all the time that they want to buy a house, but one of the biggest things that's holding them back is their debt, right? A lot of their income is going towards debt. So even as an independent contractor, you have to manage. You are also the CFO of your own business, right? You're the CEO, you're the CMO, you're the CFO, right? You're the chief executive officer. You determine the vision you want to take your business. You're the chief marketing officer, right? You've got to be responsible for generating your own leads, but then you also have to be your chief financial officer. You've got to manage your finances, make sure that you are still in business, right? Because the rule number one of staying in business is what? Make a profit, right? So you've got to be able to manage those profits and make sure that you can not only stay in business for a long term, but also create wealth for you and your family, right? And paying off debt definitely helps with that. Protecting your family. Look, things happen, especially during this COVID era. A lot of things happen, right? So you've got to make sure you protect your assets, you protect your ability to generate income for your family. Yes, the dirty word for it is insurance protection. Nobody likes talking about it, but guess what? My dad passed away when he was 56. Did we plan that? No, right? How many of you guys know somebody who passed away in their 30s or 40s or 50s a little too early, right? What is the number one source of insurance protection these days? Does anybody know? GoFundMe. Who said that? There you go. I wish I had a gift card to give you. Charge it to him. All right. Okay. GoFundMe is the number one reason, or if you go GoFundMe right now and type in memorial funds or funeral funds, you will see how many things pop up. I mean, it's millions of accounts just for that purpose, right? And that's not how it should be. Okay. You also can't rely on retirement through a lottery. Okay. That's the number one source of retirement these days too, it seems like. Okay. So you got to be able to protect your family. You also got to make sure you have your legal stuff in place, will, estate planning and everything like that. The thing that I'm here to talk most about today is how to build a nest egg, and hopefully a large nest egg, right? Because again, it revolves around that word freedom. And when it comes to building a nest egg, this is what it used to look like, right? And some of you guys, if you had parents that grew up in an era where they had these things, you know about this, right? But they called it the three-legged stool. And the three legs of the stool was number one, Social Security provided income. Number two was company pensions. And because those two things created a lot of stability, there wasn't not a lot of need on personal savings. That was way back in the day. What does this stool look like right now? Out of a three-legged stool, how many stable legs are there? None, really, right? It should be one at the very least, but we know that doesn't always happen. Social Security, shaky leg. Company pensions, you can kiss that one goodbye, right? Very few companies offer that. And especially as an independent contractor, you definitely don't have that. So that means that 100% of responsibility falls on you. That's a blessing and a curse, right? The good thing is that you're in control. The bad thing is that you're in control, right? So that's what we're here to talk about, is that personal savings. So when it comes to personal savings, you want to make sure you have three different types of accounts. Number one is to have a healthy and solid emergency fund, because can emergencies happen, right? Car breaks down, air conditioner breaks, roof, XYZ, somebody gets sick, right? Got to fly across the country. So you've got to have an account that you can tap into immediately. How safe do you want to be with this account? Extremely safe. You do not want to invest money that you're going to be touching within the next 3 years, okay? You also want a short-term savings account, maybe an intermediate account, where you're also not trying to wait 40 years to touch that money, right? You save and invest for the next 10 to 15 years. Be a little bit more aggressive with that. But lastly, which was I get most excited about, is the long-term savings, your retirement plan. I know sometimes people say, well, once you go in business, you never really retire. I know you don't ever really retire, but how nice would it be that when you are 60 or 65 years old, that you have $2, $3, $4 million in cash just waiting for you? No matter what you do with your business, no matter how many different avenues of income you have, imagine if you just have a few $1,000,000 sitting there waiting for you. How great would that be for you, your family? And if you never touch it, guess who it impacts? Your future generations, right? That's how you build intergenerational wealth, okay? So one of the biggest things that we're going to talk about, like Nimesh mentioned, and especially because it's April, and April happens to also be Financial Literacy Month, right? So this is a time that we always go out and try to work with organizations and get just information out there, but it's deferring taxes, right? Because I know we all love paying Uncle Sam, right? But there are certain things that we definitely need to pay for, but there are other things that if we have the ability to make that benefit ourselves, then why not take advantage of those vehicles, right? So how many of you guys have heard of something called tax deferment, right? So a lot of times people always ask a question about, well, do I get a deduction on this? It's not always about a deduction. It's about tax deferment, right? And tax deferment means that imagine if you're able, sorry, put in real estate. I'm not a real estate expert, so this could be completely wrong. But imagine you buy a property and you don't have to pay any property taxes until you're ready to sell the house. How great would that be? Right? That's tax deferment. So when it comes to investments, you can also defer your taxes through a lot of different avenues. What this chart shows is 3 different types of accounts. One, the yellow one, which is no taxes deferred, which is your typical investment, where you go on an app like E-Trade or Fidelity, put in some stocks or put into an index fund or whatever the case might be. And this example shows somebody putting away $500 a month for 10 years. And if they're doing that for 10 years in a no tax benefit type of account, that's going to grow to roughly around $64,000 over a 10-year time frame. But if you have an account that actually does provide some sort of tax deferment, that same $500 will be worth $72,600. Same amount of money that you are putting in, but because of the tax deferment, look what happens. Because what that means is that as the money grows, they're not taking taxes out of that account. Does that sound like a good deal? Now imagine you take it one step further and find the type of account where you can not only defer the taxes, but also get tax deductions on your contributions. That same $500 a month is going to be worth $96,800. That's over only a 10-year time frame. Imagine if you're doing this for the next 20 years or 30 years. Can you see the difference, right? So that little piece of information can hopefully be a life-changing situation, again, for you and for your family, okay? So again, what's the difference between a deduction and deferment? A deduction is the amount you can subtract from your gross income before you calculate your taxes. We all look for those, right? Every trip we're taking, every coffee we're doing, we're knocking those down as deductions, right? Same thing when it comes to investments. When you contribute into certain types of investments, like your 401k that you don't have, right? But typically at a job, that's why 401ks work so well, is because the 401k accounts not only provide such a healthy deduction, but they also provide the tax deferment, which is deferral means that you can postpone the payment of current taxes until a later date. So what you want to do is try to find a way where you can alleviate both things, right? Or at least put yourself in a situation where you can defer the taxes. And what if you could create a pot of money that's completely tax-free? How do you guys like that word, tax-free? Right? You can do that. So some of you guys might be familiar with these terms. I hope you are, right? If you're working with an advisor and they haven't talked to you about this yet, fire that advisor, okay? I mean, this is one of the most fundamental conversations with an independent contractor that somebody should have. But there are 2 vehicles created specifically for your situation. Even if you are part-time, you can employ one of these strategies for your wealth building. A simplified employer pension plan, or known as commonly as a SEP IRA. And the second one is something called a solo 401k. And what do you think a solo 401k means? It's for you, right? It's a one-person 401k. Typically, we're used to seeing 401ks of our companies that have hundreds of employees. A solo 401k means you are the boss. You have created a 401k plan for yourself, okay? So let's talk about these 2 just very, very briefly. SEP IRA, it allows you to defer 25% of your compensation into a tax-deductible and a tax-deferred account, that third account that we were trying to talk about that grew the most. A SEP IRA allows you to do both of those things, okay? Up to 25% of your compensation. There's a max cap, though, of $61,000 if you're still trying to contribute for 2022. You still have time before you file your taxes, or if you file your taxes, you can still amend it. But for 2023 going forward, that maximum amount is actually $63,000. So if you are killing it in the real estate game right now, right, that basically means that you are making, what's 25? I don't know, man. A lot of money. If you're making a lot of money, okay, you can put away a lot of money,
What a
right?
man, dude.
300,000. If you're making over $300,000 in compensation, you could max out at $63,000 in tax deferment. Okay, you don't have to do that. If you make $20,000 as a part-time real estate agent, then guess what? You're eligible after you deduct all your expenses and stuff like that. Your income, 25% of your income, so you can at least defer $5,000 of that, right? So imagine you do that compounded year over year over year while the money continues to grow and it's in a tax deferred wrapper. So that means that while it grows, you are not paying taxes. Does that make sense? Right? So it's a dual benefit type of situation. Something new that's for 2023 is that the SEP IRA also has a Roth component. Does anybody know what a Roth IRA is compared to a traditional IRA? It's after-tax contributions, but the biggest thing about a Roth IRA is that it creates tax-free withdrawals, okay? So you don't get the tax benefit right now. So here's the deal, right? When it comes to investment accounts, you're always gonna have to pay your share, right? You either pay now or you pay later. Why not do both, right? Take advantage of some of the tax benefits right now, but then imagine again, so we talked about having a couple of $1 million put away when you're 60 or 65 years old, right? Or whenever the kept timeline might be. But imagine half of that was completely tax-free. So you got some of the tax benefit now, and then you got some of the tax benefit later. How powerful would that be, right? To have tax-free money. Guys, tax-free money. Repeat after me. Tax-free money, okay? Trust me, it sounds good when you say it out loud. It is a really great feeling, okay? So the SEP IRA has a new Roth component going forward in 2023. So again, if you have an advisor that set you up with this, have a conversation with them about how you can create the Roth component to your SEP IRA. If you don't have one,
Shameless plug.
I'm just saying, okay, you have somebody to help you out, all right? But you get tax deferred growth the same way, but then you get tax-free withdrawals, okay? And the beauty of the SEP IRA, guys, is that it's extremely easy to set up and it's extremely easy to administer. Okay, so that's why a lot of people tend to lean towards the SEP IRA just because it creates a lot less headache for themselves. Okay, any questions about the SEP IRA before I move on? Awesome. All right, so solo 401k, you can't have any other employees, right? So if you've got a staff or you've got somebody else on a W-2, you can't use a solo 401k. Now with the SEP IRA, you can still do a SEP IRA, but if you have an employee, you have to contribute to their account as well. They are not allowed to contribute to that account, but you as the employer, you as the employer have to contribute because it's an employer pension plan, right? And that's what pensions are. Employers contribute on behalf of their employees, right? So in a solo 401k, you cannot have employees. The max contribution is the same, right? 61,000 for 2022, 63,000 for 2023. So basically a solo 401k is you are your own employee and you are also your own employer. So as an employee, like in a typical 401k, there's a cap on how much you can put away. The maximum was 20,500. Now it's up to 22,500 in 2023 as an employee. So that's the standard across any 401k plan, whether you work for ExxonMobil or you work independently, that is a maximum contribution. But because you are your own employer, you can actually provide yourself a match for up to 25% of your income, right? Net adjusted income, with the maximum being 61 or 63,000, depending on when you do it. So the employee deferrals can be either traditional, you get that tax deduction up front, or they can be Roth contributions and defer that tax benefit to when you actually retire, okay? And then the employer deferrals are traditional, so you get the tax benefit right now. So we have a lot of clients, physicians and people who are independent business owners. They like this setup because they want the ability to do Roth contributions, but then match themselves in a traditional setting so that they get benefits of both worlds. That was up until this year when they introduced the new Roth component for the SEP IRA. So, you know, now you get to double dip on both of them, right? You can't go wrong with either situation. Okay, look, final thoughts. I know I ran through this really quickly. I hope I did not confuse anybody with this information, but at the very least, guys, look, it doesn't matter what kind of account you invest in. At the end of the day, the key to this is that you've got to focus on building wealth, because you never know what your health situation might be. You never know what the circumstances might be down the road. I understand everyone loves, just in my business, the same thing, right? There's only so much time and energy and juice we have for this. But if we can create that freedom we can decide to work because we want to, not because we have to. Does that make sense? So I want to implore everybody to definitely, doesn't matter what kind of account you do, but focus on building some level of wealth through either one of those accounts. Learn about the vehicles in more details and figure out which one best suits your needs. That's a conversation with an advisor. That's also a conversation with your tax consultant. If you have a CPA or somebody that you work with to help do your taxes, it might be worthy of a conversation with them as well to make sure these are the right vehicles for you to employ. Okay. And the last thing, as you all know, right, you got to take action because knowledge by itself is not power. Applied knowledge is power, right? You've got to put that action to work in order to see the results of that. Okay. Other than that, guys, that's all I had. Again, this is my contact information just in case you guys need anything, have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you again for your time and your attention.
Thank you.